Welcome everybody to the August 16th Economic Development Advisory Committee. And this is a virtual meeting, and I'm going to call this meeting to order. We'll be taking a silent roll call, and this is an opportunity for public comments. If you're in the public and not on the board and would like to speak to anything that is not currently on our agenda, now is the opportunity to do so. There was a phone number on the screen, 774-520-5353, sorry. And so if you'd like to call in, I know there's a little bit of a delay. And I do not think we have any calls coming in. All right, so we're going to go ahead and close public comment and start off by welcoming a couple new members. We've got Joshua Emerson and Michael Trones. We really appreciate you guys signing up for EDAC, and the council appointed you, and welcome aboard. You've got a good team here. The board members have received the minutes of our April 27th meeting, and going to ask for a motion to approve those minutes. First, if there's any discussion or question about the minutes. Anybody have any concern or anything, any corrections? Okay, don't see any, so we have a motion to approve.
I'll motion, Scott.
Thank you. Got a second?
I'll second.
All right. So Joe, can we just do an all in favor kind of thing?
It cut out a second, but if we do an all in favor, say aye, and then all opposed, yeah.
I love that. Great. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed or abstain, unmute and say so. Don't hear any. We will accept the minutes. Okay, moving to item number 6, presentation and staff reports. Our first presentation is with Rick Spencer from Haney Biz, and I don't know, Sean, do you want to introduce him or not? I'm sorry, Sean. I said Sean, and then Wayne. Sorry.
Yeah, sure thing. So we have Mark Haney, Rick Spencer, and Monique Brown from Haney Biz here to talk today a little bit about Growth Factory and some of the exciting things that they have going on in our community and region. And really, this is a fund and accelerator, and so I thought it would be a good idea for them to share kind of what they're working on and to see if in the future, if there's any way that the city of Roseville can maybe collaborate with them. But so I'll turn it over to Rick to begin the presentation. Thanks, Rick.
Thanks, Wayne. It's great to be here with everyone today. I'm actually going to have Mark Haney do a short intro since he's the Roseville veteran and talk a little bit about what we're doing at the Growth Factory.
You bet. Thanks, Rick. Thanks, Wayne. Thanks, Scott. Everybody. Really, as was mentioned, I grew up in Roseville. Some of you may know my wife. If you work for the city, I know Kelly does. She worked for the city for a long time. I grew up, my dad had a TV shop on Vernon Street. I basically grew up and lived most of my adult life in Roseville. My grandson plays Little League on the same place I coached and played as a kid as well. So anyway, I love Roseville, and so thank you for what you do for my hometown. And today we want to talk to you about the Growth Factory, which is something that we think will make a tremendous economic impact on the entire region. And I think it'll bring a lot to Roseville. So we look forward to figuring out ways to collaborate further. We've been working with the city and Wayne's with the other things we've been doing for the last several years, and we appreciate our relationship with you. The Growth Factory is a world-class nonprofit accelerator with an accompanying venture fund. And alongside it is this thing we're calling the Backyard Advantage. And I'll share a little bit about that with you in a second. But the way I've been working in the last several years in the entrepreneurial community, I made some discoveries. I sold my businesses about 10 years ago. In fact, the people that ultimately ended up buying them ended up being Annixter, which is located right there in Roseville. We had companies in Roseville and Rockland. We're the largest security camera distributorship in the country. After exiting, what do I want to do with my life? Decided to begin investing. I started an entrepreneurial podcast, began doing events, and I made some discoveries along the way. I learned one thing for sure talking to entrepreneurs is nobody builds a truly great company alone. Number two, that entrepreneurs, they start off with a similar journey, and they start off with this enormous dream, and then they run into these problems, right? These obstacles that they didn't expect. And the most successful entrepreneurs, they figure it out. A lot of them don't. And as they figure it out, there's typically a breakthrough moment, and really a series of breakthrough moments. And we've had some of those over the last several years. And when COVID hit, we had this real breakthrough moment. And that's what really was the brainchild behind the Growth Factory, because the Growth Factory has figured out a way to guys take some of the learnings of this last several years and put them into effect to help the most promising startups in the region. And that begins with our backyard advantage, which is really the leadership of Sacramento. We began to rally what we're calling a world-class dream team to create this backyard advantage, world-class expert mentors that live and care about our region, corporate and civic partners like yourself, and engaged investors that will rally around these teams, almost like Match.com. You take a very promising founder who in the region would be helpful to their trajectory, and in turn, we match make to help guide them through that, through those battles at early entrepreneurship. They help them get venture backable. So we're talking about venture backable type opportunities. And as we invest into them with our resources, the team, along with funds, we can create a situation where there's more venture backable companies in the region. And that's really one of the things that's missing in our region right now is there are not enough venture backable companies. There's so much venture capital looking for so few opportunities. And if we were to able to create a factory that helped produce some of these venture backable companies, we could be very attractive to the growing billions of dollars that are looking for these great companies. So I've put together a team over the last several years. Rick Spencer, who is an entrepreneur himself, built companies, knows what it's like to get knocked down and pick himself back up. He's going to be coming on and sharing some more of the presentation. And of course, Monique Brown, who I've been working with for several years, really helping to ignite the entrepreneurial community and ignite an entrepreneurial revolution right here in the hometown I love. So with that, I will turn it over to Rick to share more detail about what we're working on.
Thanks, Mark. And it's great to see a lot of familiar faces. I have been a resident of Roseville since 2012, originally from Southern California. For those that didn't join earlier, we were talking a little bit about Dodgers Giants, but we won't get into baseball. We'll keep talking about venture development. But as Mark alluded to, I'm an entrepreneur, a serial entrepreneur, have grown and scaled companies both in software and services as well as hardware. And when I actually moved here in 2012, it was because I was spending so much time in the Bay Area growing a company that I sold in 2017. After that time, I wanted to do more entrepreneurial endeavors, and so started on working on some hardware startup companies and thought that I really had to go to the Bay Area to scale these companies. But I really wanted to find something more local and more community-based, and that's when I got connected with both Mark and Monique. And so, as you can see a little bit from our track record, we have operated companies, and that's really becoming more and more impactful as far as growing venture-backed companies, that it's not just someone who understands finance and the investment world, that they know how to empower these entrepreneurs with the skills and with the development it will take to help them grow and scale a world-class company. We've also been investing, primarily Mark as probably the most prolific angel investor in this region, making over 50 local investments into companies, both Main Street companies, restaurants, and other locations like Bennett's that you all probably know very well, but also venture-backed companies. And we've seen many exits, 10 exits across the operating companies as well as the investments. So we understand what it takes to help these venture-backed companies succeed. We're not doing this alone, as Mark said. Nobody builds a truly great company alone. Well, we're taking the same approach with both our fund and accelerator. On the fund side, we're partnering with Moneta Ventures, which has been the most successful venture fund in the Sacramento region, so they can provide us guidance and support directly on our fund model and fund management. On the accelerator side, we are excited and thrilled to have just a great growing number of mentors. We call them the Dream Team. And so here's just a sampling of over the 40 mentors that have committed to our accelerator. And you can see here the likes of Pam Marone, who's one of the few people to bring a company or take a company public in the region. Dale Carlson, who I'm sure many of you know from not only founding Sleep Train, but his philanthropic efforts, as well as founding the Carlson Center for Entrepreneurship and Innovation at Sac State. And many others like Liz Connolly, who's the co-founder of Trifecta Nutrition, which is one of the fastest growing companies in Sacramento. So we're thrilled to be growing this dream team and having access to all of these mentors as part of our accelerator. So when we talk about both the fund and the accelerator, I wanted to give you a few metrics so you understand the scale of the effort that we're launching. On the fund side, it is a venture fund, so we are looking for companies that can efficiently scale and are likely candidates for future funding from other VC funds. Overall, our fund will be $10 million, which is a smaller fund if you consider it or compare it to the likes of the Bay Area Silicon Valley venture funds. But we know that this is just the start of the capital that's critically needed for early stage companies. And when we talk about early stage companies, we're talking about pre-seed and seed companies, companies that have little to no revenue and are ready to scale. And so they have an MVP, they are in a industry that can allow them to efficiently scale and be eligible for future funding through venture-backed companies. We are industry agnostic, so we're not coming out and saying that we are specializing in one particular industry. Certainly with a venture-backed company, we're not looking for restaurants and retail locations, but we're looking mainly for technology-based innovative companies. On the accelerator side, we'll be supporting 100 companies that we fund across a 4-year period. And this is a very ambitious target, but we are providing with the accelerator 12 months of support. If you followed any accelerator models like YC or 500 Startups, Techstars, et cetera, typically it's 12 to 16 weeks, and it's focused mainly on mentorship and a demo day and kind of community involvement. We're taking a much different approach and really investing in these founders. We'll still have a lot of those community benefits, but with the 12 months of support, we're focusing on market acceleration, getting fundable, and a program we call Founder to CEO. And that Founder to CEO piece, I think, really separates our accelerator efforts, because we know that if we pick the right founders, they will be successful and they will be an asset for this region. So even if their business model doesn't work, they will succeed. And we think the combination of this funding and this accelerator will provide that backyard advantage. And we're excited today to talk to all of you about how Roseville can partner with us, because we think Roseville has some unique opportunities to support both the fund and the accelerator, and some things that really help Roseville stand out amongst all of the areas in the region for this backyard advantage. So a little quick update on kind of where the venture space is and how Sacramento as an overall region compares to other regions. So if you look in the very top right, you obviously have the outlier of Silicon Valley, the Bay Area. And you can see here in the headline, this is 2020 data looking at the top 20 US markets, both on dollars as well as deals. So $133 billion of venture capital was invested in 2020 across 6,000 deals. You obviously have the outlier in the top right of the Silicon Valley, like I mentioned. Sacramento you see in the top left. And we probably all share the anecdotal assessment of Sacramento not really having enough venture capital, not really having enough capital to help companies grow and scale. But most people haven't really quantified this. And so we wanted to quickly quantify you can see over 2020, there was 247 million of venture capital invested across 26 deals. And that puts us behind regions like Salt Lake City, Austin, and even Baltimore. And so when you think about what we're doing with the Growth Factory with $10 million and 100 companies they're investing in, you can see this moves the needle pretty significantly for Sacramento. And as I mentioned, that $10 million is just the groundbreaking fund. We have our investors that are looking for follow-on investing and other funds that are collaborating. So we're excited about how this can move us forward. Now, if we can move this forward with the Growth Factory, there's real economic impact. So venture-backed enterprises fuel prosperity. And you can see here just some of the quick data points of how this creates economic impact for a region and for a city like Roseville. So the companies that we're focusing on, high growth, innovative companies that are venture backable, they create in their early stages a net amount of 4.5 net new jobs. And what that means is that most organizations that focus on business attraction and business recruitment focus on existing companies that already have jobs. But if you look at over time, those larger enterprises fluctuate with jobs that they add and jobs that are reduced. So when you look overall at where net new jobs come from, and those are jobs that continuously add to a market, it comes from these high growth venture-backable startups. And there's also a multiplier effect. So each job in this space of this high impact venture-backed company creates not just one job, but has a multiplier effect of 5 jobs in other sectors. Those sectors could be services, hospitality, government, etc. So it's not just the 4.5, there's a multiplier effect that really has impact on the economy of a region. And if we compare the salary of the average person who works for one of these organizations, and we look at the average income or salary of a Roseville resident, it's 64% higher. So overall, you can see, significant net new job grown, as well as impact on prosperity overall. So I wanted to give one quick example of a company that's here that's actually part of the angel portfolio of Mark's investments called Telementu. They are headquartered in Roseville on 3400 Douglas Boulevard, and they provide a technical platform for medical networks and telemedicine for payers and providers. They have 20 employees in Roseville, and they're about to grow with some large contracts, probably adding 5 to 10 jobs. And this is a company that most people in Roseville don't know about. I ask constantly folks in the medical space if they've heard of Telementu because they're right next door to the Kaisers and the Sutters and the large organizations that most people think about when they think about Roseville and healthcare. But this is a perfect example. Telementu has had multiple rounds of funding and is on the trajectory of significant growth, adding technology and medical jobs to this region. I mentioned Moneta Ventures earlier. They're also an investor in Telementu and have supported them with their growth. So this is our timeline for launch. We just finalized the close of our applications. We had over 50 applications submitted for our initial cohort. We are on pace to launch September 27th with that first cohort, and we're excited to see that just through the organic nature of our network, we are seeing 50% or more of those applying being female founders and or people that associate with the diverse categories of BIPOC. So we're really excited to see the opportunity not just to have venture backable companies, but to really impact the region with overall diversity goals. So we are not a diversity fund, but we do have a objective that we're trying to achieve, and that's something that we're proud to discuss. We're looking to close our entire fund of the $10 million by December 15th, and then we'll have community days like our investor preview day, our second cohort launch in March, and then our large community demo day, which will be in June of 2022. So with that overview of the fund and accelerator known as the Growth Factory, I wanted to stop and pause and open for questions that we talk about opportunities for collaboration and partnership. And a few ideas that our team has been talking with Wayne and others at the city include how we can innovate, and that means how we can bring together both these early stage startups as well as the corporates and the organizations that operate in Roseville, including the city itself and the utility group, and how we can provide what we call pilots. And this is a critical, important element of our accelerator, which we call market acceleration. And that is, in order for these companies really to succeed, not only with growing a scalable business, but finding funding from outside of the region that they will need to become a world-class company, they need to show early traction. And we think Roseville is a perfect example of a city that has, plenty of healthcare operators, plenty of financial service operators, plenty of operators in real estate. Obviously, as I mentioned, the city and the utilities group. There's, other groups in manufacturing, et cetera. And so we're excited to look at how we can bring together all of these players to advance and innovate with these companies. We're also excited to look at workshops that we can offer to ignite entrepreneurs, both with the ones that are included in the fund and the accelerator of the Growth Factory, as well as others that are considering entrepreneurship or thinking about this from a small business perspective. And so in addition to the curriculum that the Growth Factory is building and will be available to share to partners, we are also part of an initial group called the Sacramento Entrepreneurs Growth Alliance, which includes the Carlson Center and UC Davis and many others that will be offering workshops and currently offer a lot of curriculum for entrepreneurs. And so that will be part of our overall effort as well. And then incentives. We know that there's been a lot of discussion, nationally about how to incentivize economic growth with organizations. Certainly, there's been a lot of data that shows that business attraction and business recruitment is a challenge as far as long-term sustainable growth. But the growth that we see with these early stage companies, again, from the numbers that I shared about net new jobs grown, as well as the impact to overall prosperity, is well validated and has the opportunity to be tested right here in Roseville. And so we're excited about Roseville's forward thinking and leadership in wanting to test incentives. And we want to partner with them so that we can not only provide candidates for testing, but continue to engage with best practices and leading data. One thing I forgot to mention that I think is relevant to conversations like around the topic of incentives is that our accelerator is part of the Global Accelerator Network, or GAN. And GAN is a network of 120 accelerators worldwide. So we are a member of this very large international organization that has significant data to help with testing things like incentives. So we're excited to be able to leverage that platform with our discussions with the city of Roseville. So for that, I'm going to stop and allow for questions, thoughts, or ideas as we explore both our efforts with the Growth Factory and potential partnership with the city.
All right, so let's open it up. Anybody on the board or any of the guests that are here, anybody have any questions? And I'm not sure if I can see the hands go up, so Brian, you might have to help me on this. Pretty quiet.
And if there's no, as a guy who has a podcast, I'm used to speaking on the mic and maybe even asking questions. So maybe I'll throw a question at you, Scott, and or the group. Is as we think about Roseville and the sandbox of economic growth, and then what goes in that sandbox, and then as you narrow that sandbox and you think about venture capital, attracting that, and venture-backed companies. How do you think about venture-backed companies as relates to the overall economic effort for Roseville? And then as we narrow down that, the follow-up question is, what type of companies are best for your sandbox?
Well, I'll give you my opinion, but it's not necessarily an expert opinion, but we have a lot of people on this board that I'd like to hear their views as well. I think one of the things for the city, wearing my city council hat, we want to ultimately grow businesses in our city. So having, venture back is how you're going to get some of these businesses started. They've got a great idea and there's people that are interested. They vetted them, they're interested. They pump money into it and help them really get a foundation and start growing. And what the city, I would think, wants to get out of that is we would like them to set up shop here in the city and grow within our city, because that helps our direct economy. Now, even for our region, we have, the Placer County Economics, and we have GSEC, the Greater Sacramento Economic Council, and we know that any successful business is a great thing for the whole region, and that benefits the region. But I know from just the city perspective, which this board is, sorry for all the noise, I think we definitely want to see those roots take place within the city and really help grow the economics here. Looking forward to other comments as well from other members or city staff.
Yeah. Hey, Scott, this is Wayne. One thing that I was really excited about, as Rick and Mark mentioned, I have a history of working with them. And so, I'm excited about the potential partnership and how we can continue that. And the timing is perfect, just because, one thing, and we're going to talk about it a little later in this meeting, is incentives. It just so happens that the city is now looking at funding programs that may help with business recruitment, may help with small business growth. And so, the timing of what the city was already thinking about doing and then what Mark Haney's group can offer is phenomenal. I would also like to note that, kind of venture-backed businesses, I think that they really help us focus in an area that maybe we've been, I don't want to say a little short-sighted on, but maybe we haven't paid enough attention to. So in Roseville, we really focus on small business. And I say this in all my presentations. They're the backbone of our community, and they are. But I think, the needs of a startup are a lot different than the needs of a small business. And this is kind of helping fill that void. And I think, so from an economic development standpoint, I think we also need to foster startups and creating that environment for entrepreneurs. Me and Rob and Troy, who's since retired, we participated in GSEC's FAM Tour, right? So you have these site selectors that come out and they provide feedback to the different jurisdictions on kind of what their customers are looking for. And one of the things that they noted, along with cost of doing business and streamlined process and access to, a knowledgeable workforce, was reputation. And so that's another thing that I think what they're doing is going to allow us is to really bolster our reputation in that area. So that way we become known as one of those communities that really are innovative and foster entrepreneurship. So if you can't tell, I'm really excited about the potential partnerships. And I think it's going to make a little more sense to this group as we go through our agenda, because you'll start to see there's other items that we're going to be talking about today that kind of fall in line with what we've heard from Rick and Mark.
I'll also just share, I liked, Mark's analogy of the sandbox, and going back to the company that I shared earlier, Telemed to You, with COVID, obviously the rise of telemedicine was significant. And, fortunately they had a strong infrastructure, so they were able to, ride some of that wave, but it also created a lot of noise that they have to now filter through. And so while they're adding, probably 5 to 10 jobs in the next few months, if this growth factory concept had existed a year, 2 years ago, and we had been doing these pilots and these tests here in Roseville, I think they could have added, 100 jobs or more. And so significant growth that you would think about when you're trying to recruit or attract a new business. And so that's why I really like that as a case study, because, there's plenty of other companies like them in our pipeline that are ready for that type of scaling.
One of the things that I think my dad taught me over there on Vernon Street when I was a kid is to think about how you might use other people's money. So I've been investing with my own money this last several years. Now we're raising money from outside investors along with my own. But I think the whole idea here is sprinkle a little bit of capital along the Telemeds to You and the other startups in the region. And because there's not enough investable companies right now, there's people, the money in the Bay Area is looking for places like Sacramento and other areas around the country to start deploying their capital. And when you start thinking about the recurring investment that comes. If we build out the ecosystem, there will be this recurring investment of other people's money coming in to Roseville, coming in to Sacramento, if we have the ecosystem. If we make the investment in this ecosystem and it begins to thrive, the money will begin to follow those successful startups. And so it's kind of an interesting thing of what bait to use to attract other people's money. These are companies that are not bankable. You can't get bank financing with a company that's burning cash, right? Burning cash sounds bad for a restaurant, but it's not bad for a tech company. It's kind of an interesting scenario. But how do we attract that? If you think back to Rick's slide that said $64 billion in the first quarter was deployed in the U.S., over $70 billion in the second quarter, and that's well above where it was in years before. And Sacramento is just getting this little amount. If we got our fair share, it would be several million dollars. Probably, I think our goal on there was like 1.26 billion per year, continued to get invested into our region for years and years to come. So we're talking about small investments with my money and the partnerships that we might build with you in order to attract this big bucks that's coming from outside the region.
And I want to add in a conversation I had with Mark and his team. I know probably off the top of my head a dozen people, and I know there's hundreds here in the city and around us that are high-tech employees that live in our city and have wonderful ideas and dreams of new inventions and new ideas, and very capable people that are holding down a job in the Bay Area but dreaming of doing something different. And I think this is a wonderful opportunity to try to go after some of those people. And I think this is going to be kind of like a magnet that as it gets bigger, it gets stronger and just starts drawing more and more word of mouth. It gives us a place to send people that we know are dreaming of getting something off the ground. And then the other big attraction, I think, is your mentor program, where you've got people that know their stuff and they kind of want to help the next guy and get involved in helping somebody else get started up. And I think that's a fantastic idea as well, because we've got a lot of brain power around here. It would be great to give them an outlet and put it to use here in our home instead of in the Bay Area.
You bet. And I think COVID is good. Yeah, go ahead.
This is Josh Emerson. I'm on the board. I was just curious a little bit about as you're getting started this month with the application process. You mentioned a little bit that you're geared towards the technology innovation side, and you want to, remain a little diverse in that application process. Can you give me a little bit, or can you share a little bit about some of the targets that you guys are going to use as you kind of go through and vet some of those? I think you mentioned you have like 50 applications. Can you talk a little bit about some of the targets that you're going to try to work through as you vet through some of those candidates that you have?
Yeah, Rick, you want to field that?
Sure. Yeah, so we have both targets in the industries that we know that we can, like pilot and test with this market acceleration piece. So healthcare certainly is a significant opportunity for testing and market acceleration. GovTech, is an opportunity. I think with, Roseville's independent utilities and other operations that exist in this region, AgTech, FinTech is a growing there's a growing group of fintech companies that are operating in this region, and it doesn't require a lot of infrastructure to grow a fintech company. So those are kind of key sectors that we see opportunities for. As far as the diversity of applicants and founders, we're setting an objective to try to get to that 50% mark, that 50% of our overall cohorts will be female or diverse founders. And so that is something that we are striving towards as an objective. And we actually just brought on, a great example of world-class people right here in our backyard. There's a member of our team, Keiston Simmons, who Wayne Wiley actually introduced, who is both a former veteran as well as getting his doctorate degree from Penn, but he lives here in Roseville, and he's actually studying for his doctorate the impact and the social impact of diverse investing, especially in the venture capital space. And so we're using Keystone's research and other expertise to help us with our targets. But to answer the question again, the key sectors that we're excited about, like I said, I think, Roseville certainly has, more healthcare infrastructure now than Aggie Square will have for some time. And so I think that can be leveraged as an easy example of the opportunities that we could bring to bear. And that's not just a specific healthcare technology, but looking at COVID and some of the challenges with anxiety and depression and burnout, we have tools in our pipeline that are looking at employee engagement, that are looking at behavioral health, that are looking at better, more efficient, more equitable recruiting. And so those are technologies that would apply across any large employer, but I think with some of the challenges in healthcare today would provide significant impact to residents of Roseville.
Absolutely. Thank you.
One of the things, if there's no more questions, we'll keep taking them. And I have
Mark, I have Wayne at, because Wayne's been, doing his homework, and he's looked into, other cities that have supported accelerators. I think the likes of Glendale and Burbank and Long Beach. And so, Wayne, maybe you want to share a little bit about, why those cities saw the need to not only support, startup growth and ecosystem infrastructure growth, but actually make an investment.
Yeah, so a lot of the things that we've kind of already talked about, I've reached out to 2 of the 3, waiting to hear back from Burbank, but their local governments thought that it was essential for them to make these investments in entrepreneurship and promotion of kind of innovation for their community. And there's ripple effects, right? One is the kind of traditional economic development benefits, jobs, hopefully sales tax, property tax generation if these folks, scale and end up getting brick and mortar businesses. But there's also, like I said, the inherent benefit of having a community that promotes innovation and what that spawns, off and can create. And like Mark said, the multiplier effect, right? You're talking about millions of dollars that could have potentially filter back into our community. So, I think that, as the city of Roseville looks to update our economic development strategy, I definitely think that this is an area that we need to pay some attention to.
One other thing I want to add on to that too a little bit, Wayne, is the stickiness effect. And I think some of you may have heard that, hey, somebody with a great idea, where do I go? It might even be someone from Roseville, somebody coming out of Sierra College, great idea, need to go start a business somewhere. Where do you go? You get that first funding from, say, an angel investor in the Bay Area. You might even relocate to the Bay Area, right? Because that's where all the venture capital is. So what makes a startup ecosystem sticky? Why would these companies stay here? And I would say a couple of things. Number one, love, right? So they want to feel, if their investors are, there are those first few people that come on your team, right? There's a super bonding moment for startups or any championship team at that very beginning. Those people that were with you at the beginning, those initial customers that you got from the pilot program at the city of Roseville or at Adventist Health, right? Those were my first customers. Of course, I'm not going to leave them. I'm going to stay right here in this town that supported me at the beginning. And so really having a strong ecosystem with pilot programs and civic connections, and where you're one degree of separation from anybody who you might want to meet in a town. It's like that is a glue that it certainly kept me here. I have plenty of friends that said, "Oh, I'm getting out of here for tax purposes." Well, you know what? I have roots here. I have love of people that have helped me build businesses and stuff over the years, and I'm never leaving. And I think that we can do that same thing for the startup community. In fact, it's happening right now within my portfolio.
All right. Again, ask anybody have any other questions or comments at all?
Yeah, I have a question. This is Eric. Does the biotech science, is there any kind of interest to that in this area? I know that in the Bay Area, that's one of main things you're tracking. I didn't know if people have startup ideas here in this region. I know one of the main detriments to this cluster area is that we don't really have any lab space for those types of startups, but I didn't know if people were knocking around from your perspective.
Yeah, great question. So the short answer is yes, there is Biotech Opportunities. A lot of that is being driven through research in or from UC Davis. But there's a great example of a world-class founder who's in our pipeline. She was just accepted to Y Combinator, probably the most successful accelerator in the world. And she's building and validating a solution for a new antibiotic. And it comes from research she did at UC Davis, but she lives in Roseville, right? So when I talked to her about where would you be able to accelerate your company the most, it wasn't, oh, I need to stay close to UC Davis where my research is. That is the case. She needs her lab to do the research, but she said, when I think about growing my business, if I were to pick any location in this region, it would be in Roseville, because I'm going to be targeting the physicians and the medical groups and the payers on the journey of building this company. And so she happens to live in Roseville now, but she is very excited about the relationships and the partnerships we're building with the city of Roseville for scaling her business right here in the city. And so, again, we are seeing a lot of great innovations that come out of UC Davis, but where can you quickly test and validate those? I think, as Mark alluded to, currently, the sandbox for healthcare that Roseville has organically is a significant asset.
Hey, Rick, I'm glad you said that, because that reminded me one point that both of the communities that I talked to mentioned was, another reason why they thought it was critical that they really promote entrepreneurship and support kind of that ecosystem was talent retention. They didn't want the folks in their community to leave, right? And so they wanted to provide them with these opportunities. And the reality is, unfortunately, all of them aren't going to be successful their first time around, but they are going to be successful eventually, right? And so they gain skill sets and talents that they can then take, and whether they end up in corporate America or they end up with another successful business, it's a win for that community. So I just wanted to make that point.
You betcha. And another thing too is we think about the economic development strategy for city or the region or even our families. We have to make some long-term do some long-term thinking and really building out this ecosystem. It's going to take several years. We probably need to think of this in 10, 20, 30-year terms, where our fund is a 10-year fund, but really this ecosystem is going to be built over time, and because success breeds success, right? That's really how it works, is these companies begin to become successful, and then the offspring, the employees and the co-founders and the investors, as they begin to see, oh, this one was successful, maybe I can do it too. And then we'll end up seeing, if we do this correctly, we'll see clusters of biotech or medtech or govtech or fintech. We'll see these clusters emerge somewhat organically out of the success. Just like my security camera companies, there's a lot of security camera sales getting done right now in South Placer. You guys don't even know about it because it's not being done in Placer. It's being done all over the world, based out of South Placer, and it's owned by public companies. But those kind of things begin to happen almost organically as people succeed.
Well, this is a really exciting presentation. I appreciate you guys taking the time. And Monique, I know you didn't speak, but I see you there as well. I need to keep us moving on the agenda, but I do want you to know Wayne is definitely in touch with this group, and there's a lot of conversations happening, and the city, I know, is definitely excited about accelerators and the idea of growing new business organically. It's a great way to do it for your economy as well. So again, thank you for the presentation. I'm going to go ahead and move on to our downtown updates. And I know Wayne and Rob, looks like Wendy's on there for presentations. I'll let you guys take it away. And thank you.
You bet. Thank you, Scott, Wayne, everybody, the people that asked the questions. Thank you very much. And thanks for giving us your time.
Thank you.
Hey, Scott,
Yes.
If I can, real quick, I know Rob's going to speak to the first couple of items, but I should have had on the agenda an introduction for Gina Mccall, who's new to economic development. So she just joined the team, 4 weeks ago now. So she's the newest member of the economic development team. She came by way of planning, similar to me. She's been with the city for 17 years. And, we are just really excited to have her on board. She's already been a value added, and I just wanted to introduce her to the group and make that introduction. And sorry, Rob, for hopping in there.
Welcome, Gina. Looking forward to working with you.
Thank you. You as well.
All right, everyone. Well, I will start here with our 116 South grant. So for folks that are not aware of 116 South Grant or the property, this is a building that was purchased this year, a little over a year ago now, from Roseville Electric. Roseville Electric has been undergoing a site analysis as well as some different improvements. So if you've been in downtown recently, you may have seen some new windows being put onto the building. There's a contract going to council tomorrow for some tenant improvement work to be done on the first and second floors. You may have seen the post office had moved over as a tenant on the first floor. But as of now, Roseville Electric is pushing along. They're pushing along aggressively and very well. So we will start to see some activity there. Timeline-wise, we probably look to the end of the year to see some sort of activity from Electric, but some of those activities that you'll see from our utilities would be the customer-facing programs such as utility billing and other customer-facing services for our residents to come in and utilize and be right here in the core of downtown. Next, if I guess we can go to any questions at the end of this, but if I go next to the downtown deck update. So as you all are aware, last year, a couple of months into COVID, the city had taken the lead on constructing 7 decks. There's 6 on Vernon Street and 1 in historic Roseville in front of the Owl Club. As COVID has progressed, as things have changed, as we've opened or we've seen different restrictions come into play, we thought this was an important project because, one, for other restaurants around the city, they had an opportunity to utilize private property, utilize their parking lots. And on Vernon Street, this was a lot tougher. There really wasn't an option there other than utilizing sidewalk space. So that's kind of why the decks came into play. They were built as temporary structures. They have done a very nice job for our businesses here in downtown. The update, though, of where we're at now is the city has done some work to look into the removal of the decks. At first, we were looking to the middle of end of August for the removal of the decks. However, as I said earlier, COVID it's progressed and changed. We do realize with the talk of the Delta variant and how case rates are going within not only Roseville but the world, that right now it would be too early, and we need to take a step back and kind of reevaluate it and look at the option here and kind of see what happens with COVID, what happens with the Delta variant. And I don't have any insider information, so I don't want this to sound this way, but if for any reason there was a restriction to reduce indoor dining or any type of indoor activity, we didn't want to go ahead and remove those and eliminate an option for a business in downtown to be successful and still serve customers. So at this time, we've stepped back. The decks will stay for now. Eventually, they will be removed, but we definitely have our eye close on what is going on with COVID and interest to see those stay to help support the businesses as we continue to work through COVID-19.
Hey, Rob, can I just add on that? I know the decks are temporary and they're not designed to be permanent, even though a lot of us wish they could be.
Mm-hmm.
But those, I just wanted to say, those really were a lifesaver to those businesses. I've heard that so many times, and so I'm really appreciative that we're going to take a step back and make sure we get through this first, because that, I would hate for us to get in a situation where they're struggling all of a sudden and we just took away something that helped them before. So great decisions. I'm very supportive of that.
Yeah, and one more thing, I think it's important to say is that, there's obviously been a lot of challenge through COVID, but one thing that has been a great thing that's happened is having the decks here. That's really opened up a door and a conversation of outdoor dining within downtown and how to engage the street and in the use for either a retailer or a restaurant. So even though these decks will go away, over the last couple of months, we've had conversations with both the Downtown Roseville Partnership, the Downtown Merchants Association, and those restaurant owners, to start talking about it, start thinking about future, ideas that is, a more permanent solution to these platforms. So, we've gone as big as closing down the street. We've gone, small as utilizing space in front of the sidewalk, but it's opened the door for conversation for these restaurants to utilize different space outside within downtown Roseville after these decks are removed. But yeah, I do think with the art project that's gone on, as far as painting the K-rails, to have the restaurants take ownership with the accessories that have gone on there, it's been a nice message. But I know the businesses definitely are grateful for it. They've been grateful to see the community support them. So we want to be able to, be open-minded and looking at different options to go further and still access and utilize the street and engage with the restaurants and have them engage with street and outdoor dining. So Wayne, would you like me to go ahead and start on the RFP status? Okay, so an RFP that I've been helping manage is for 401 Oak Street. So as you guys may be aware, that's the former fire station here in downtown Roseville. The fire station property was sold to the University Development Foundation, the UDF. And earlier this year, the city repurchased that property from the UDF. A few months back, now with the new laws under surplus property, we noticed the property for 60 days. We noticed it as is condition. We didn't receive any written notice formally from an interested entity in the affordable housing space. And in the beginning of July, city staff released an RFP for the purchase and development of 401 Oak Street. Right now, we're in the middle of that process. We just had a pre-proposal conference last week. We saw good attendance with 10 different participants on the call. We do have some pretty serious interest from a few of those parties. One thing that we're also working through now on this RFP is the adjacent parcel, which is 403 Oak Street. That is between the fire station and the city library. It right now is a parking lot. It's in the middle of its noticing period with the state. We just had an appraisal completed on that. So if 403 is not picked up through the State Surplus Land Act process, then staff would fold that in with the RFP. So we would be selling 403 and 401 Oak Street together. As far as price goes, we had an appraisal done on 401 Oak Street. The market value is stated to be at $1.31 million. And late last week, we just got an appraisal back for 403 Oak Street, showing the market value at $385,000. So in the beginning of September, once the noticing period ends for 403 Oak, that's when we will fold that into the RFP, and that amendment will be brought forward. Fortunately, right now, we can't really speak fully to that because we are going through the state's process. So we aren't getting ahead of ourselves as far as noticing folks. But if they are serious about, coming in here to develop a project, we've made them aware that 403 Oak may be folded in, and just want, as you're planning and looking at plans for a development, or future development at 401 Oak, that may be an opportunity.
Yeah. Thanks, Rob. Scott, do you want me to just power through the rest of the RFPs and then open it up for question?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Two things that I want to note. First, Rob and Gina, thanks. You're doing a phenomenal job. Rob's only been with the city, like you said, a couple of years. And as you can tell, we have a small group and we've been extremely busy. So thank you both for your efforts. There are a couple of other RFPs that I'm going to highlight real quick. Two of which are further along and they've actually subsequently have sold, but just for the good of the group, I know Josh and Michael are newer to EDAC. So we've talked about this to the rest of the group. Roseville Junction, which used to be the old Hotel Conference Center site, we did an RFP there, that sold, and we have a developer that's in for entitlements to develop that site with 2 hotels, an outdoor kind of recreation use, a couple of restaurants. So we're really excited about that. Green Acres is also relocating. And so that was done through an RFP process. This is a property off of Galilee. It's a larger site, better suits their operation. And so they're really eager to get going. They're planning on opening in fall of 2022. And really the only thing that's slowing them down is just materials. I was told steel went up about 25% from when they signed their contract about 6 months ago. And so just based on the availability of materials, that slowed down their project. But they're hoping to break ground, hopefully the end of this year, beginning of next, and then to be open in fall of 2022. So you can keep an eye out on that one. The old post office downtown, so we did an RFP for that as well. That has since closed. So the city no longer owns it. That property owner, though, is moving a little slower on his development plans. That was approved for a 48-unit mixed-use development. And so, from economic development standpoint, that is going to be a huge catalyst for downtown. We just are eager to see it going, get going. We like to do things quick and like to see results happen even quicker. And this one, I think they're thinking they're going to demo the building probably within the next 4 to 5 months. And that's when you're really going to see the landscape downtown change. And then finally, the last one is the courthouse. So you guys are familiar where the downtown library is. Right across from that, there was the old courthouse that has since been demolished. And we're in conversations with Bridge Housing for a 57-unit senior affordable project. And so as Rob mentioned, now with surplus property, we have to offer it up to housing sponsors for affordable housing development. Bridge responded to that posting through HCD, and we're actually pretty excited that they have a great reputation. They're out of the Bay Area, so they're somewhat local to the region, and so their goal is, we have a tentative schedule right now, and as it stands, they're hoping to start construction at the end of 2022, 2023, if we're successful in our negotiations. So that's about it for RFPs. One of the things I did want to highlight is part of the proceeds that we get from the sale of these properties, we're looking then to create different programs, incentives, and that's kind of what I was talking about as we move through the agenda, how this all ties together. So historically, the city of Roseville hasn't offered, incentives, financial incentives, just because our prop value has been a little different, being a full service city, having low utility costs, having a very streamlined process. But now, with the sale of these surplus properties, we have an opportunity to take some of those funds and to start to get kind of creative. So for this group, our goal is going to be to come up with maybe half a dozen or so suggestions, and then to vet it through this group. So as you are, just kind of going through your day-to-day activities, if you see programs or ideas that you think might be of interest for the city of Roseville, please feel free to share that with Scott or any of us in economic development.
Is that everything on the updates?
I believe so.
All right. So we're going to go ahead and go to the the development strategy update, the economic development strategy update with Gina.
Wayne, did you want to also talk about Consolidated Communications first?
Yeah,
There's a few more items on the
I saw there
update.
are a few more on there.
Yeah. You know what? We actually have a couple of more. Goldfield. I know, Scott, you're interested in that. So Goldfield is going to be locating in the old Ninja Sushi building. And so they're currently dealing with building and fire permits. But their tentative schedule is to be open by October of this year. They were set back a little bit due to just some building permit requirements, but they're still really eager to get open downtown. And then I think I had Losi Apartments on there as well. Scott, you were wondering, there's vacant space below the mixed-use affordable housing project. I think it's about 2,800 square feet, and they've been trying to lease that space for the last 2 years. I just talked to the operator. They are planning on installing 2 restrooms and an electrical panel to help cut down on the TI costs as they go back and try to remarket that space. So as of right now, they're looking to do that work, and then they're going to do another effort to try to find someone to lease it up. As far as the uses that are allowed, the zoning down there, it allows for a variety of uses. And so I think office, retail, or any kind of hybrid thereof would be appropriate. Now, Gina, I think you're up.
It's shocking they haven't found somebody yet after all that time, especially downtown. It's baffling.
I know.
And one more update on the downtown. This is about the Consolidated Communications building that's at 200 Vernon. We had an infill meeting a couple weeks ago with a developer that's looking to purchase that property and rehab it. And they're looking to convert that space to about 9,000 square feet of retail and restaurant on the ground floor, add a rooftop patio and bar, and then some office space on the ground floor as well, and then add about 18 residential apartments on the second floor. That's it for the updates. Any questions on that?
Do you have a date on the consolidated one, an guesstimated date of when they would open up?
No, they're still in the purchase process, and then they'll move forward with their development plan. So it's pretty early on right now.
Great use for downtown there. It's pretty exciting. Okay, so now we're ready to jump into the strategy update.
Yes. Okay, thank you. So I'll just give a quick heads up that we are looking to update the economic development strategy early next year. That is, the economic development strategy outlines the actions that are going to be taken to ensure Roseville's economic growth. So it really helps us focus our economic development efforts. The current strategy covers the period from 2017, the 5-year period from 2017 to 2022. So we'll be looking to update that to cover the following or the next 5 years. And we'll start that once we have our team finalized. As we talked about, Troy and Laura retired, so we'll get moving on that as soon as our team is finalized. Just for background, the current economic development strategy has 9 focus areas, and those are related to business retention and expansion and attraction. It talks about supporting entrepreneurs, small businesses and technology, higher education, providing development support, leveraging marketing and partnerships, and enhancing quality of life and supporting Roseville's nonprofits. So we'll be asking you if there's areas that we need to tweak, or delete and add some other areas, maybe focusing on some of the topics that we just heard about today. And so expect to start working on that again early next year. In the meantime, I encourage you to review the strategy. It is online. It's pretty short right now. And so if there's areas that you want, or topic areas that you want staff to bring forward that will help in updating this strategy or help you think about what areas we need to focus on, then just please reach out and let staff know.
And I want to back
thanks.
a little bit. I apologize. Back on the downtown updates, there was a lot of items in there, and we went ahead and just went through them. I wanted to open it back up to the board and any guests that happen to be joining us. Does anybody have any questions on any of those updates? I don't want to bypass that. I think it's important to have that. Go ahead, Vance. I can't see everybody, so I don't have control of this, so just unmute and start talking. So.
Sorry, I was trying to find my unmute button. Hey, just quick, remind me which of the various apartment complex, which one is the Losi one? Is that the one in Old Town, kind of over by OTP?
No, it's off of Vernon Street.
Is that the one kind of down closer to where Douglas comes in, that new apartment building that got constructed a couple years ago?
Yeah, on that side of Vernon. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay, thank you. That was it.
Mm-hmm.
I had a question as well, Scott, and I probably should know this, but the Consolidated building that's being sold, did Consolidate just consolidate, or did they move into a new building?
Do you know the answer to that?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So a lot of their staff is actually teleworking these days. And then they did consolidate some of their other staff into the building across the street, across Grant, I believe. So they did not occupy a new building.
And the phone museum is still going to be part of them, right? There's nothing to do. No.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
The phone museum, will that still stay with Consolidated?
That is correct, yes.
All right. Any other questions? Okay, let's go ahead and move on item 6.4, potential upcoming grants.
Yeah, before I get into that, I just wanted to highlight what Gina was talking about with the strategy update. We're going to rely pretty heavily on this board for feedback, for input, to vet things, because then ultimately staff is going to take that to council to get approval with EDAC's recommendation. So, we just wanted to give you a heads up that it's going to be coming and that we're going to be looking, to this group to partner with staff on creating this updated document. And so our goal is to bring, speakers in as we see fit, where there might be some correlation between our efforts, particularly as it relates to the strategy, and then just to provide you with kind of overarching information that might be useful. And then the next item, grants and resources available for our business community, kind of already touched on that. There again, that's just to give this group a heads up, because we're going to be looking to you to provide input, and maybe we'll come with a framework and suggestions of things that we've seen, but we're definitely going to want to make sure we have open dialogue, because there again, our goal is to move forward with a few programs that we can have recommended from EDAC. So please keep that in mind and pass along anything that you think might be of interest or helpful to staff.
All right, and then moving on to the business retention visits. And Wayne, I'll let you introduce it, and I want to give a little mini speech on this one.
Yeah, so business retention visits obviously are extremely important to us in economic development, and we've done that historically in partnership with the Roseville Area Chamber. And we go out and we have different criteria. We try to meet with businesses that have been operating less than 2 years, that have been operating more than 10 years, that have a certain number of employees, really to just try to get a feel of, how can the city better serve our business community? And I can tell you, one, the actual information that we get out of doing these business retention visits is invaluable, but also really the optics and what it means to the businesses that we're, that staff and, our electeds in the chamber are taking time to really just listen to them. And so this has been, like I said, critical to kind of what we do in economic development. We have actually gotten input that resulted in tangible changes. And just real quick, an anecdote is, I remember years ago we went out, and at the time businesses had some complaints about our sign ordinance and, our restrictions for signs. And we heard that time and time again. So we went back, worked with development services or planning department, And we made amendments to our sign ordinance. And so, those tangible results to the business community are super impactful. And so I just have this on here, and I'll turn it over to Scott, but we've been delayed in when we wanted to do this. And so I wanted to put this as a placeholder just to let everyone know that we are going to do it, maybe a little later than we originally anticipated, but I'll turn it over to Scott now.
That's okay. I gave kind of a similar talk at the Placer County Economic Development Board, and I want to hit on a couple of those items for the board members, especially a couple of our new ones. Honestly, EDAC has been kind of an easy board to be on in the past, let's say. It's not like planning where there's a lot of homework, but we've been changing over the years, and I think this is going to become even more critical, and I really want this committee to become much more active and involved, because we've got some big things ahead of us, and our city's kind of counting on, especially the strategy that's coming up. But these retention visits are super critical. Our group did these before, and man, I just heard positive feedback from everybody that went out. The many that I went on, it was so incredible having a business owner say, nobody's asked me those questions. Things like, what do you like about being in the city? What can we do to make it better? And we had so many little problems that were big things to them that were super easy to fix. The city, permit snag, something got kind of lost in the works, and they've been waiting and waiting. Well, one phone call and boom, they get a call back the same day. And I mean, just so many things. And there are so many thank yous. Thank you for caring. Thanks for listening. These are the things that help retain a business in the community and really help them feel connected. And the city staff, we've got some excellent staff, and I hear this all the time as an elected. I hear people always commenting about how easy it was to work with staff and compared to that city. And so this is a great opportunity for us to get out there and really help retain the companies, maybe find out which ones are wanting to expand, maybe help get them in touch with resources. That's the biggest element right there. And then the strategy as well. We really got to go through this strategic update that's going to go to council. I really want this to be high quality, and it means we're going to have a little bit of homework. So I hope you're here to serve. That's the idea. And so we want to have our staff put us to work so that we can really make a difference for our city. And again, appreciate your time, and I definitely want to see us put it to good use for everybody else. So sorry for my little speech there. There's a hand up. I can't tell who it is, so just unmute yourself. AT, who's that?
Angela.
Are you there? You got to unmute and talk.
Oh, we can't hear you. It looks like you're unmuted.
Well, if you get it figured out, join in and catch up. Sorry, Angela, we don't hear anything yet, so feel free to join whenever you just butt in and say something there. Anybody else have any comments? No. Wayne, I'll go back to you on that. Anything else on the retention visits?
No, that was pretty much it. I'm glad you did that plug. That's what I was trying to get to when I was highlighting the level of involvement with the strategy update and business retention visits. So, yeah, we're looking forward to working together.
So sorry, it just came to mind what I was wanting to say also in there. I mentioned this at the board, at the Placer County Economic Development Board. Roseville has over 9,000 business licenses. That's a huge number of business licenses. Most of those are small. But guess what percentage, or guess how many of those make up half of our sales tax revenue? Out of those 9,000, the top 25 businesses make up about half of our sales tax revenue. And so the reason I'm saying that is when we go out and do these visits, we're hitting some of the bigger companies like that. Imagine one of those companies leaving. That's a noticeable hit on the revenue for the city. And the revenue is important because that goes to police and fire and a lot of quality of life things. So that's one of the reasons I wanted to mention that. It's really important that the retention piece, we get real serious about that, because that's a huge effect on our economy. Sorry, I don't know how I forgot to say that earlier. Angela, are you on?
No, I don't think so.
I can kind of hear you. You sound like you're far away, but if you talk real loud, we can hear you.
Oh, I was going to ask Wayne if the visits are the same ones that we did with the pecans and things like that back in 2019. Are those
Yes.
what you're talking about? Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. Thank you.
And for those who are new, we went and we were bearing gifts. So it made it easier to make an appointment. Hey, I've got a gift from you from the city, and we wanted to just talk a little bit. And so we gave them these bags of pistachios. So. Right.
Councilmember Albert, if I could just add one thing real quick, just so folks are aware, even if it's not a formal business retention program, through COVID, obviously that wasn't going on. Like we just said, our last formal program was in 2019. But with opportunities, whether it was the grant programs, the loan programs, the decks, and other things that the city had ran, all these present an opportunity for some type of business retention visit, and not even just out of economic development, but if you look at our utilities and working with rebates and their key account customers, or if you go down to our development services and the customer service that they provide for our customers and helping find resources. So even if right now that formal program isn't going on, I just want to make the board aware that if you do come across a business that has some sort of issue or needs some type of situation to be solved or pointed in the right direction or contact, welcome you all to reach out to our team anytime, because even if it's not a formal program that's going on, that's what we're here to do, is to be the connector and find the solutions.
Great comment. All right, let's go into our roundtable real quick. And I don't actually have, let's see, Kelly, do you think I could ask you maybe on the roundtable to just call out the members, and you could probably pick them out easily.
Sure, let's start with Jeff Richardson.
Trying to unmute here. Okay, we're doing our updates now?
Yeah.
Cool. Well, good news. I don't know if you know on this call or not, but the theater is still under construction and planning on opening first week of November this year, which is super exciting. They're moving very quick. The bowling alley underneath will be open in March of 2022, about 4 months after the theater. So both of them are planning on still opening, which is really good news. The Galleria actually is almost 100% full, not with perm tenants, but with temp tenants. As I reported a while back, we had about, 30 vacancies. And since that time, there's been a very high demand for both perm tenants and temp tenants to fill that space. So even as we approach the holiday season, we're already getting pretty full in filling that space, which is great news. Sales trend and traffic trend, Galleria still leads the country within Westfield portfolio as number one in both of those. And as it compares to 2019, both sales still down, but now we're into single digits down from 2019. And the sales continue to be strong as we compare them over 2019. Most of that is in luxury, high-end home, athleisure. The areas that are struggling are usually restaurants. Some of the ones have continued pandemic impacts. So we're working with those tenants to hopefully get them strengthened. YSL is opening, I think, in 2 weeks. So that's pretty exciting. They're almost done. That's the luxury tenant that replaced Burberry there on the corner across from Louis Vuitton. We had Fabletics open about 4 weeks ago. They've had a very, very successful opening. They had a sister store open on the same exact day, and this store did 3 times as much as that one did. So again, another successful opening here at the Galleria. And we're actively under construction for Capital One Cafe, which is a really exciting use. Not had a bank inside the Galleria before, and that would be really fun to have that open. And then Peloton is under construction for their inline space based on the success of their kiosks that they've had out in the center for the last couple of years. And then lastly, Amy's, as you drive by Galleria Boulevard, you can see that starting to emerge. They've completed the framing. They're working on the rooftop garden, which will be pretty interesting to watch go in. So if you happen to see that as you're driving by, they'll have a full-on living roof on top of their development there. And that's looking to open around the fourth quarter as well. So that's what's happening here.
Angela, do you have anything you want to add?
Hopefully you can hear me. Let's see. Here at the North State Building Industry Association, we can report that new home sales have cooled off a little bit, but they still are at or are above normal. We are still at a new home sales high since 2007. Home building continues to move quickly out west. And also, we appreciate Roseville Electric Incentives Program for builders who choose to build all electric or gas, or no gas, I mean. And also, I wanted to share our most recent sales report to you. It's reports at the end of July. So I was going to put it in the chat box for y'all in case you were interested in that report. And that's all I have. There you go.
Great, thank you. Joshua?
Hi, it's Josh. No updates.
Thank you. Michael?
No, I just want to thank you for having me. It's normally I'm a big mouth, but today was listening and trying to see how things work here. So I really appreciate you being on the board and very excited. And that's it for me. Committee, not board.
Well, welcome.
Thank you.
Vance?
On behalf of the Chamber of Commerce, I've got no updates for the committee today. Thank you.
Thank you, Vance. Eric?
Yeah, I was going to say we've been tracking all that office leasing with the big work from home. All these studies going out about people coming back to the office and how things look in the summer compared to now. So right now I'm doing an informal poll based on people's backgrounds, and it looks about 40% of you guys made it into the office, and the rest of you guys are working from home. So I'm going to use that as my study that, people still haven't really committed coming back, but we are seeing good leasing activity in the suburban core. So things are exciting, but waiting to see how this quarter ends up. So that's it for me.
Okay, let's go with staff. Bill Chaplin?
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman Albert and other committee members. Just a quick update from Roseville Electric Utility. We have strived to be the lowest utility and most reliable in the region for many years, and we've been successful. And as many of you know, it's one of our best economic indicators is that we can provide low, valuable, reliable energy to our customers. I wanted to give everybody in this committee a heads up that we will be having a proposed rate adjustment coming in the next couple months here to our city council members for approval. And I want to encourage folks to attend our virtual public workshops coming up. We have one coming up on the 17th at 5:30 p.m., August 26th at 5:30 p.m., and again on August 31st at 5:30 p.m. These will all be via Teams. We hope to meet in person, but given the new outbreak of COVID, we're moving to a Teams, virtual environment. So I hope everybody can join in and listen to those rates. Of course, we'll be taking it to the Public Utilities Commission as well as to our City Council. And the rate should be implemented, if it's approved, sometime beginning of next year. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Vance. Wayne?
I don't have anything else to add.
Okay, how about you, Rob?
Yeah, I guess I'd just like to echo again, like I said, if there's things that you hear from different businesses, you all have our contact information. We're here as a resource. We're here to help. And on that note, I think across citywide, staff has been receiving calls looking for businesses or residents that are looking for support, financial support through COVID. Right now, the California Relief Grant, round 7 through 9 have been posted with their opening dates. So round 7 is open, but it's for waitlisted applicants. Round 8 is for nonprofits and will open on August 27th. And then round 9 is for new and waitlisted applicants, and that will open on September 9th. So if you do hear of businesses that are looking for any type of financial help in terms of a grant, please make them aware that the California Relief Grant is reopened. If they have any questions, again, our team is here as a resource and can help point them in the right direction.
Thank you. Gina, do you have anything?
No other updates. Thank you.
Joe, anything?
My exciting update is, whether you like it or not, I'm going to be the new face on these EDAC meetings in place of Michelle Scheidenberger. So I think I've worked with most of you guys or met everybody, but for those of you I haven't, I'm Joe Mandel from the City Attorney's Office, and I've worked at the city for 15 years or so, and I'm primarily the utilities attorney, so electric, water, sewer, garbage, but when Michelle became the city attorney, she used to represent economic development. So that was one of the things that I was interested in moving forward with and helping out with economic development. And I can promise that Wayne, Rob, and Gina and everybody else are very, very busy over in economic development right now with getting a whole bunch of stuff done. So I'm happy to be a part of this and happy to work with everybody, and was excited to see everybody face to face today. But unfortunately, we're going to have to do this on video anyway. So next time.
And Scott?
Hit mute once, not twice. Just a couple quick comments. The rate adjustments for Roseville Electric, in case you hadn't heard, they actually haven't increased rates in 7 years. So that's a good thing. And then I just want to reiterate, there's a lot of people on this committee, and you all have influence in a lot of different sectors out there in the community. And so I do want to really encourage you to be a positive voice for our businesses. And when our staff are telling you, bring people to them that need some help, please do that. That's their job, and we want to keep them very overwhelmed and busy, making the city even better. And so if we can all be a little extra voice and be a conduit to help solve problems out in the community, please take that opportunity. It's going to help us all in the end. All right, we're over time, but are there any guests that are present that wanted to share anything? And if so, you can unmute and share. Not seeing any. I don't have to do a public comment at the end, do I, Joe?
No, we did a public comment at the beginning, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Then we're okay. No, you're right.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, everybody. We will adjourn. Not sure when our next meeting is. Do you have that, Kelly, handy, or?
Yes.
The
next meeting will be Tuesday, October 26th.
All right. And we highly value your presence, so hopefully everybody will make it. We'll see you then.
We do need a motion to adjourn.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
Hey, I'm new. I'll make a motion.
All right. Is there a second? Second. Okay, all in favor, unmute and say aye.
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 Any opposed? You're welcome to stay on. The rest of us are leaving. All right. Have a great day, guys.
Thank you.
All right, bye, everyone.
Great. Thanks.
Bye.
See you.